What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the state of PlayStation going into 2024. I think I actually did this last year. I had a lot of fun with it. I made this a live stream. I actually did a live stream yesterday where we talked about both PlayStation and Xbox. I wanted to make just a dedicated video for each of them. So today is PlayStation, tomorrow will be Xbox, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at 2024, talk about what the plan is for these companies, the good and the bad, and games that are coming out, etc., etc. So you guys can let me know in the comments how you're feeling about PlayStation entering 2024, and then we'll get started. So for me, and I don't think this is like crazy, I think this is kind of common, 2024 is going to be a lot of reliance for PlayStation on third parties, right? I mean, in a way, it's second party stuff, right? These deals that were made to make them exclusive, but Sony doesn't, own the actual game itself, or they don't own the company that's making it. Something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth would be a good example. Stellar Blade, although Sony kind of has stakes in Stellar Blade now, so that's a little bit different technically, versus some of the other ones. But those kind of being two examples, right? It's going to be something that's dominated by the Death Strandings of the world and the Silent Hills. In fact, all of these games I've mentioned so far are not PlayStations, right? The only PlayStation one that I can actually think of would probably be a spin-off of sorts, maybe even like a Valhalla kind of thing for Spider-Man 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2, if that gets some sort of spin-off. I think, Wolverine, just to bring that up right now, I feel like that's 2025. I'm not going to talk about it much here because I honestly just don't believe it's going to make it. And then, you can think of the Ghost of Tsushimas of the world, whatever Naughty Dog is cooking up. You can think there are a couple wild cards, Bend, right, makers of Days Gone, who are making whatever they're making now. Originally, the rumor was like a Men in Black game, which I don't know if that's still happening or if that ever was like the true rumor, but something with a motorcycle. We actually do know that Ben's game is going to have a protagonist that rides a motorcycle, just like in Days Gone. But I don't know if that game is 2024. I guess I would lean against that idea just because, if they haven't said it by now, I don't know, if it actually would happen. Blue Point would be one. They've been working on stuff for they've been gone for a long time, right? So whether they're doing a remake, there were rumors again with them that, maybe they're doing a remake and then maybe they're also making their own game. I think originally a rumor was like a Miles Morales size game. So not like enormous and not necessarily DLC, right? Somewhere like, a base game, right? Just like a natural game, I guess. And then they would also be doing a remake. So they got that stuff. They have, and I hope I'm saying it right, I think Nix's is how you say it, the PC kind of masters, right, of doing PC ports. And remember on their website, they talked about remasters, that they're also kind of a remaster studio. So it's possible, say we get a Ghost of Tsushima, coming out on PC, or say we get a remaster collection, maybe a Jak and Daxter, or, any of these like dormant, of course I'm going to say Sly Cooper because that's my main thing, but Sly, Resistance, Infamous, you can really go down the line, Jak and Daxter. Could we see one of those this year? Yeah, I actually think that's possible. Could we see a PC port or two? It's wild to me that Ghost of Tsushima is not on PC, and I think that changes before Ghost of Tsushima 2 comes out, okay? So I think that's a real possibility. So you might get that, and why I'm bringing that stuff up, that's from PlayStation themselves, right? Now, I'm sure you'll get some things in terms of maybe announcements really maybe only announcements. Maybe a Ghost of Tsushima 2 gets announced in 2024, but you're not going to obviously play it, right? Maybe we get a couple more of their live service things. I constantly talk about the rumored Twisted Metal live service game, which I do think is real. And could we see that in 2024? Does it come out in 2024? Well, we know the live service stuff, even from PlayStation, has been pushed back. Remember, we actually covered that news story a little while ago. Some of them have been pushed like far beyond when they originally thought. The concept of 10 live service games in like a span of 3 years, that's gone, right? I think now it's maybe 5 or 4 within a 3-year period, and the rest of them have been pushed like beyond that. Maybe they've even been, kind of re-looked at and said, do we really need these? So we'll see. I think 2024 from PlayStation Studios is going to be more on the announcement side than on really anything releasing, right? You might see Ben's game, but you're not going to play it. You might see Blue Point's game, but you're not going to play. I think a lot of them may actually line up in 2025, which would make 2025 with GTA and probably Wonder Woman and Persona and Kingdom Hearts and all these. It's going to make 2025 a freaking massive year, right? Absolutely enormous. But 2024 is a little bit quieter. Now, again, where does PlayStation actually go in 2024? Well, beyond the announcements, which I think could be dominated by their first parties, in terms of the releases, they're relying a lot on those partnerships. So, look, they start strong. In fact, they start every month. They kind of got something for a little while, right? You got The Last of Us Remastered. You got you got Helldivers 2 first in the middle of February. Then you have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Then you have Rise of the Ronin. So you actually have a pretty okay, actually not more than okay, right? You have some pretty gigantic games there. You got 4 games in the first 3 months, which is pretty good. Like, you can't really ask for any more than that, okay? You also have Death Stranding to kind of close the year, which I heavily imagine would close the year out in October or November. I think Death Stranding 1 came out in November, so they would probably try to keep the same month. That game sold really well at launch and then kind of slowed down after it, so maybe they'd like to move it sooner. Maybe they'll just, again, stick with the exact same thing. But beyond that, again, well, as I mentioned earlier, you're kind of relying on, well, does Stellar Blade, like, is this the year? Well, it better be. Honestly, Stellar Blade better come out in or they better just at least show it, talk about it. Silent Hill 2 Remake, that is I don't want to say it's a lock. I was just about to say the word lock, but I think it's as close to a lock as humanly possible, right? Because we're so close, and if it doesn't come out in 2024, I think a lot of people would start to have questions. And then honestly, any other kind of third-party, the thing that's tough, right, is Sony, historically, has also kind of relied on third party. Right? They do first parties, and they do it quite well, and that's like their main thing, but they also have these deals. And the tough thing is, like, you can bring in the Atlases of the world or the Square Enixes, right, to say, well, do they have, like, an agreement with Kingdom Hearts 4? No, I don't think so. I don't think that if it, say, Kingdom Hearts 4 as an example or Persona 6 as an example, I actually think they don't have agreements anymore for those. I don't think they're going to be even though there's been rumors specifically for Persona that it still will be just PlayStation exclusive, I don't really believe it. But, regardless of that, those are not 2024 games, right? Specifically, well, there's no way Kingdom Hearts. I think Persona is kind of locked for 2025. So, is it possible we find out more as the year goes? Yes. But you know what? If by the end of the year, we're talking about what we just said, right? The first 3 months, you got your heavy hitters, and you got some, like Helldivers is smaller, but I actually think Helldivers could be one of the better things that they release. Helldivers 1's really good. So making it third person, I think that kind of makes it a little bit more universally, like, people are going to be more interested in it now. I think they can honestly do some pretty good things there. And then, you got, again, Death Stranding to end the year out. You sprinkle in Stellar Blade. Maybe that's like a September kind of thing. Maybe Silent Hill is like a May or June thing. Like, you could have games in 5 to 6 months. You can have a game, a PlayStation exclusive, in 5 or 6 months of the 12 months of the year, which is pretty good. And it's actually kind of better, even though Spider-Man, I think, would be bigger than all of those games in terms of sales, say just from sales. Spider-Man's bigger than all of them. But really, this past year was definitely on the big ones, right? You had Forspoken, which, we don't have to talk about how that really did. Final Fantasy 16, which I loved, and I think sold pretty okay, but there's always those stories, the back and forth of how did that game really do. And then Spider-Man 2. Those were the 3, they had others, but those were the 3 big ones in 2023. 2024, just Final Fantasy, Death Stranding. I think Rise of the Ronin is a pretty sizable game. Stellar Blade, I think, would actually be bigger than you might think. And Silent Hill 2 would be kind of huge, right? That's 5. So 5 versus maybe 3 this past year, and you got 5 coming up. I'm not saying, like, it's going to necessarily, like, it's not about the quantity, although that's what we're talking about here, right? It's going to be interesting. Like, is next year, weirdly, like, in an odd way, is it actually better than what we just had? I think it's probably going to be more different, right? Because you're probably going to have more announcements that people are into. And again, that goes back to what we first said. This past year, the year we were just in, the big PlayStation showcase that we were waiting for so long to get, so much live service. Now, look, live service is for some people, not for other people. I actually am one that it would not really be for, right? And although I said, I would take a Twisted Metal live service game, I actually think that would kind of be cool. I think we'll find out more about their live service games in 2020. I really do. I believe that. But I'd also hope that if they do a show, that their big 2024 show would actually be quite different than what we got in 2023, right? Maybe you get some Wolverine, you get your Ghost of, even if it's just like the title, you get Ghost of Tsushima, you see Bend, you see, Blue Point's remaking X game. I think 2024 actually in a lot of ways might be bigger than 2023. So hopefully we're in for a good year. Again, it's a lot more reliance on third-party stuff. And without this being this is not a console fanboy thing. We're talking about the games here. I care about the games. I don't care about who makes them. Hopefully it's going to be a good year for PlayStation. Now, like I said, tomorrow's video, or, if you guys are watching this weeks from now, I'm going to have another video the day after this on Xbox. We're going to do the exact same thing, talk about Xbox in 2024. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.